Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, coming off of an exciting Thursday night game where we swept the board with our picks. Again, guys, I do previews for NFL primetime and games I'm excited for on Saturdays for college football. So if you like that sort of content, if that interests you, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a video. I know I put out a lot of content and you may not be able to catch it all, so I understand, but I'm happy to have those of you who have stopped by thus far. As always, guys, I make these videos for entertainment. I'm not sharper than Vegas. I'm not even calling myself a handicapper. I do this to try to give you guys an angle to think about in the games, especially if you're betting on them. I do this to try to point you guys towards value if I see it, and to remind you guys to play your promos and to capitalize on the free money that books give you. That's why I'm here. A lot of the money I make sports betting comes with speed, and speed cannot be had on a YouTube video. I may be able to catch a line that is up for a minute to 2 minutes, whereas I don't have time to make a YouTube video pointing you there. So I'm doing my best, trying to provide some entertainment, trying to provide some angles. So let's hope we can keep cashing. So we are in week 3 of the college football season, and to be honest, I struggled to find even 2 games I was excited about this week. No top 25 matchups this week, which is a rarity in college football. So again, stay tuned next week for some more exciting picks, but today let's go ahead and talk about 2 games that I am somewhat excited for. Before we do that, let's review last week. We had a positive week, just eking out in the green. We took Notre Dame 4.5 first half. Jayden Thomas, we took his yards. He didn't really see a lot of targets or action. That confused me a bit, so that's a mistake on my end. We hit Estime's over rush yards. Hunter had 73 yards exactly, so we got a little lucky with that cash. Sims got sacked a bunch, so he couldn't get his over yards. Colorado had a late touchdown, which kind of ruined the team total, but Sims scored any time. That brings us year to date on college football picks 6-5, up 3 units. As always, I like to point you guys towards promos that books are offering tons this week, and they've posted them early, so I'm thankful for that. So BetRivers has their normal 4-leg parlay, miss 1 leg, get your bet back up to $25. DraftKings is offering all of these in the middle here: a stepped up parlay, a no sweat parlay, a 50% boost on Tennessee, Florida, and a 33% boost on Syracuse, Purdue. And finally, FanDuel is offering a Colorado State profit boost, a parlay profit boost, and another Tennessee, Florida profit boost. Like I said, 2 games I'm looking at. This is the first. The second is Tennessee and Florida. We have the Golden Gophers visiting North Carolina here, who had a letdown of a week last week. Conditions look great, 85, sunny, perfect afternoon for football. Schedules for each of these teams: Minnesota had a very low scoring, very defensive first game against Nebraska, 13-10. They got the win, but a lot of people were surprised that Nebraska was unable to win that game. Nebraska had 4 turnovers. They didn't look great. We saw them get beat again last week at Colorado. So not a super impressive win, but a win nonetheless. And Eastern Michigan, I believe they were 24-point favorites in that game, so they did not cover the spread, but they handled Eastern Michigan. And North Carolina went to a neutral field and took on Spencer Rattler to open the season and looked great defensively. I believe they had something of 9 sacks in that game, or sacks, tackles for loss combo. But then App State came to town last week, and it was a lucky win by the Tar Heels. It was an overtime victory. A lot of points scored, 74 total. They rushed for something like 323 yards, did North Carolina, but not a convincing win. Drake May a little slow to get started this season. But this matchup, I do see some angles here, so that is what I want to talk about in this one. Talking about some pros, cons, and questions for each team, and we'll start with Minnesota. I think their pros is their passing defense. Now, is Jeff Sims for Nebraska a great passing threat? No. Is Eastern Michigan's quarterback a great No. So have they faced a guy like Drake May, who is likely a first-round NFL talent? They have not. So, we will see what happens this week when they go on the road and play a top 5 quarterback in the NCAA. Their cons, biggest con is that they have the 85th ranked offense, and they've not faced a real challenge yet. Obviously, Nebraska's defense is solid. It's stout, but Eastern Michigan only scoring 25 on them, not being able to get much going offensively, no big explosive plays. Really questionable for this Big Ten team. And so my question is, can this Minnesota team keep up with the scoring? What I anticipate will be the scoring of North Carolina in this game. North Carolina is projected at 30 points in this one. I'm staying away from that, but that is what they're going to have to keep up with if they want to win, according to Vegas, and I am not sure that Minnesota can do that. Pros for the North Carolina Tar Heels, you would not expect me to come in here and say run game with a guy like Drake May at quarterback, but they've rushed for 168 yards against South Carolina and then 319 last week versus App State. And that leads me kind of into the cons of this team is their inconsistency, both on offense and defense. Drake May, again, has not gotten it going to the level that we saw last year. And their defense looked great against South Carolina. Looked like a top 25 defense. And then last week versus App State at home, no sacks in that game. They did have 9 QB pressures, which is a good thing. But allowing App State to come in and score over 30 points, where does it leave this team? So I'm interested to see that. And that is my question. Which defense do we see show up to this game? I think it's going to be better than it was against App State. And I think App State's offense has a little more firepower than this Golden Gophers offense. So I do think North Carolina will get it together this week. So peeking in at the numbers, Minnesota is a plus 240 underdog on 2 different books, as low as plus 225. And if you want to take North Carolina money line, the best place to do that is MGM at minus 275. It's a 7.5 point game, sitting right on that key number of 7, although the juice is favoring Minnesota here at plus 7.5. And the over-under is set at 51 right now. I don't have a lean at all in this total. I don't know if Minnesota can score more than 20 points. So, if North Carolina is targeted at 30, it puts us right on that number. I'm staying off of the total completely. As far as bets I do like in this game, we saw this Minnesota Golden Gophers team get gashed by Jeff Sims in week 1 for the tune of 91 yards. Drake May and this offense, I think, have more weapons and more threat than Jeff Sims did. Now, I don't think Drake May is going to rush with the volume that Sims did, but an over-under at 32.5 yards, a total that he's gone over already once this year in 2 games, and was close in his first game against South Carolina. I think this is a good bet for a full unit at over 32.5 yards for Drake May. Looking over here at the spread, I'm only going to play it for 0.75. I know a lot of analysts are saying Golden Gophers plus 7.5. I think this is a great rebound spot for the Tar Heels after last game. Disappointing win at home. They didn't lose, but they did not win to the tune that they were supposed to. So minus 7.5, I'm going to take it at the small juice, minus 104 on FanDuel. I think an afternoon home game, I don't think Minnesota's keeping up. So go ahead and lock that in if you want to tail at 0.75 units. I know it's a little wimpy, but I don't want to force anything more than I maybe already am on that play. And finally, take a look at this line for Kobe Paysour. This is Drake May's favorite receiver. He has 15 catches on the year, and I believe the next highest catch receptions target on the team has 7 or 8. So I'll go ahead and post that stat here so I'm not incorrect. Boom, it just popped up. Check it out. Okay. The point is, Kobe Paysour is Drake May's favorite target. Look at what books are offering for him to score a touchdown. Minus 140 everywhere except Barstool. Barstool is giving you plus 110. Now, I'm not saying that these 4 books are sharp and Barstool isn't or anything like that. I'm just saying that is an outlier. I love the matchup. I think Drake May gets it going, and I think Paysour to score a touchdown is a solid bet at plus 110. So I would be locking that in for a full unit. Again, 2.75 units on this game. Moving on to the next. The night game is a classic SEC battle. Tennessee visiting Florida, 2 teams that I think have underperformed a little bit this year, maybe not Tennessee as much. The weather looks okay, 84 degrees, couple of thunderstorms, so we'll see, watch the conditions. If it's thunderstorming, obviously they won't play, but if it's just raining, that could factor into some of these picks that I have moving forward. Looking at their wins and losses, Virginia, Tennessee's able to stomp Virginia, but then last week against Austin Peay, 30-13, they were 50-point favorites in that game, and in the fourth quarter, it was a 2-possession game. So kind of a letdown for them. They go on the road for the first time this year, and they go to Florida, who had a tough battle Week 1 Thursday game against Utah, the Utes. The Utes defense is solid, so that score does not surprise me. But they took care of business last week, 49-7. Still a lot of question marks for both of these teams. Let's talk about them. Tennessee has a lot of weapons at the wide receiver position, so it's surprising to me to see the pro of this team being running the ball. They're averaging 257 rush yards a game, which is fantastic, okay? But with the weapons that they have, I'm a little concerned with their passing offense. Have they had to use it yet? No. So can we say maybe that's why we haven't seen it excel? Sure. But I don't know if this matchup with Florida is the best place to come in and have to unveil that. So I think Florida is going to stop the run in this game better than Virginia and Austin Peay did for this team. They have better, bigger defensive linemen who can plug the A gaps, B gaps, and I think it's going to force Tennessee to be a little uncomfortable. So my question is, can Tennessee exploit this Florida secondary if Florida is able to stop the run? That is what I'm looking for in this game. As for Florida, they are very deep at running back. They have 3 running backs who each have about 18 carries on the season. So they spread the ball around. That makes game planning for these guys a little tougher. And maybe it's not fair that Mike Kahn is their quarterback, Graham Mertz. He comes over from Wisconsin, and he has been underwhelming. I don't think he's reached 200 yards on the season yet. Maybe the first game against Utah he did, but he definitely hasn't had a real showcase of a game. However, this Tennessee secondary is weak. They let Austin Peay's quarterback throw for 300 on them, and Graham Mertz is certainly better than that fellow. So I think this is Mertz's breakout game against a subpar defense for the Tennessee Vols in Florida. That's what I expect. Looking at the numbers, Tennessee comes in as a 6.5-point favorite, minus 220 on the money line. You can get Florida all the way up to plus 200 at BetMGM. If I had to pick a side, I think the side with value is Florida. I think Tennessee comes into this game a tad overrated. I think Florida is able to keep it close. So I'm not touching it, but that's the side I would say has the value. It's a 6.5-point spread and a 58.5 total. That is where I see the value. So let's go ahead and talk about some bets I like for this one. Again, I don't want to force too much, so I'm only playing 3 things, one of which is a profit boost for FanDuel. We've cashed 2 already this season, one in NFL, one in NCAA, so let's try to keep things rolling. Right now, I love the under 58.5. 2 offenses that have not looked great. Now, Florida has had a test, and they didn't look great. They scored 11 points against Utah. Tennessee, yeah, they've put up some points, but they've not played a respectable defense, certainly not a Florida defense. So with this total, all right, if Tennessee is a 6-point favorite, something you can do is think about what is Vegas predicting as the breakdown. So if they're a 6.5-point favorite, they're expecting this game to be about 33-27. Okay, because that total 33 and 27 equals 60, and that gives Tennessee a 6-point win. So it's going to be around there. And I don't know if I see Tennessee scoring 30, and I don't know if I see Florida getting over 28. So I'm shocked. I thought that under would be closer to 49-51. So you're giving me a touchdown more than what I expected this game to be. So for me, I see value. Now, there's probably a ton of people who see other angles, but I think that Tennessee will be able to maybe pass on the secondary, but with the strength of their run game, I think that gets shut down a little bit. I do think Graham Mertz has a good day, but I don't know if at the end of the day they're going to put up 28 on Tennessee. So I like the under in this one. And I do like Graham Mertz over 205. Like I said, he's been close to this number twice, but he hasn't gotten there. I think if they do end up trailing in this game, they're going to have to throw the ball. I think Tennessee's secondary does have some vulnerable spots. So give me the over on his pass yards all day for a unit. And finally, our profit boost play over on FanDuel is Joe Milton to score. That's Tennessee's quarterback. Florida is going to stop Tennessee's run more than any team this year. And I think that's going to give Joe Milton an opportunity to work the ball on the outside. a play action, rollout. I think he's going to scramble a lot more in this game. So him to find the end zone, Florida State plus 10.5 and under 57.5 is my profit boost play. Again, we're kind of doubling up on this under here, so that could, be a misjudgment, and then, we lose both of those bets. But that's what I'm rolling with on FanDuel there. So as always, guys, tail if you'd like. This is just my angle. This is what I think is going to happen. Use your profit boosts, okay? Stick to your units, have a good time, and enjoy both of these games.